I saw an unbelievable picture of my granddaughter, Arlen, who is Courtney and Graham's firstborn. And she was on this picture, she was on one of those like little kiddie carts and pedal carts. And the look in her eye and the smile on her face, and I thought, oh boy.
You get another one.
Yeah. And then, of course, like you say, which is that going to be a straight liner or is that one going to turn too? And God, I don't know. I think it depends on me and John Force. I really think the government needs to get out of the automobile business and let the automobile people determine what's the best foot forward.
And that for me really solidified, like there's really something here, that this is unexpected. And this is a brand, the beginnings of a brand, not just, we're hot rodding the car for someone. They've asked us to hot rod a car, we're hot rodding a car. We're not just a services outfit. There's something here that can be repeated.
If I placed my order today, when could I get my car?
Yikes.
This is what Rob said a couple years ago.
Well, since we're friends, maybe we can do. I'm just kidding. It's 2027. About
no
right
way
for a turbo. Yeah.
Winning at Indy, how hard is it? I know it's the confluence. We've talked to numerous racers and owners on this program through the years now. It's a confluence of events. I mean, Dave even talked about 20 years ago with Buddy, and you guys knew that Honda had a great car, that Buddy had a great car, but it was all about the weather at that point.
Yeah, it was. Although Buddy had led a lot of the race. Buddy was the dominant. I mean, that was an amazing month of May for us. We won the pit stop contest. We were on pole position with Buddy. We had two other really good cars. We had Vitor Mira, who would end up finishing fourth behind Buddy. Roger Yasukawa, who ended up 10th. So we had three cars in the top 10. It was, but Buddy was strong that whole month. And in the race, we led a lot of laps, and of course, and the weather was threatening at the end. And in fact, it just let loose. I can't remember exactly how many laps
after the
we did.
Trophy, right?
I think we were short a few laps because of the rain.
That's right.
But like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe something like that. But yeah, I mean, we didn't have they had built this new platform that would rise up with the car and the driver, and couldn't use that because there was a tornado going through the southern side of Indianapolis headed towards the track. And so we're all huddled into the new tower, which was like a bomb shelter at the bottom of that thing. And, there's Dave. I'll never forget, speaking of Dave, Dave he's one of those guys that always knows exactly what to say in any given moment. And, just off the cuff. And, he was actually speechless. And he said at the time, I haven't had a drink in 30 years, but I feel like I'm drunk. And that was the impact that win had on him. And of course, we were all super happy for Buddy, happy for Scott Remke, who was my right-hand man, who lived, breathed, ate the Indy 500 and the history of it. I mean, it was a popular win for us within our organization, let alone outside, particularly after the bittersweet experience of 1986. So, that was something else. That was a great day.
Wow. Present day, you're building a monumental racing facility near the Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
Does that support for the future?
Oh, no question. Who does it? I'm sorry.
What does it support for the future?
Well, I mean, right now we of course have the IndyCar team in this building, and we have the BMW program there as based as well. So these are two major programs that we're operating. And BMW program is a very major program, and the facility really allows us to have everything under one roof, whereas previously we've had BMW in Columbus, Ohio, IndyCar here in Indy. And I mean, that's not the best way of doing things. And fortunately, we, Mike and I, we decided to build the building, and it's a big obligation. But I think it definitely is it's a sign of a number of things. One, that Mike and I aren't in racing just to say we're in racing. We've tried to create the best environment for our people in order for us to be successful at the highest levels of motor racing in the future. And so I think that, I certainly think that that building represents that. And I think people feel that when they see that.
Yeah, it's amazing. The investment that you've put into everything.
Mm.
Will the next generation of Rahal racer go fast? Will they turn left and right or just go straight?
Well, that's a timely question too, because I saw an unbelievable picture of my granddaughter, Harlan, who is Courtney and Graham's firstborn. And she was on this picture, she was on one of those like little kiddie carts, the pedal carts. And the look in her eye and the smile on her face, and I thought, oh boy.
You get another one.
Yeah. And then, of course, like you say, which is that going to be a straight liner, or is that one going to turn too? And God, I don't know. I think it depends on me and John Force. Maybe we'll flip.
Yeah.
I don't know. But,
Yeah, right.
But
the Rahal racer legend is
well,
a
and the
long one.
Force. Here you got John. He had 4 daughters, and they're all raced. Poor guy
Yep.
never had a son, and yet had very successful daughters who drove, funny car, top fuel, you'll name it. So, yeah, I'm sure that Courtney would be pushing for drag racing, and I'm sure that Graham would be pushing for IndyCar, but we'll see. We got some time yet.
I've got to imagine, Bobby, when you get together with Graham's father-in-law, as you mentioned, John Force, there may be some bench racing that takes place. Any good stories about hanging with John?
Not really. I mean, we have hung out together at events. I mean, we were at their place in Incline Village, Nevada, maybe 2, 3 years ago. And I have to say that John and I, it was after dinner, we opened up maybe 2 bottles of wine and sat there and bench raced until about 3 a.m. And it was a lot of fun. And because we all had plenty of stories to tell. And I really
All
like
the
John.
stories.
I
Yeah.
really like John. He's a good guy, and I have tremendous respect for John because he came from nothing. His family was not wealthy. They were hardworking people, and he came from nothing, and he made his way, and he made it in a big way. I mean, he's had a lot of success on and off the track. So I have a lot of respect for people like that.
Yeah, amazing. Well, quite a racing legacy. And also, you're a self-avowed automotive history fan. You you are the head of the International Motor Racing Research Center at Watkins Glen.
I was, yeah, no longer, but I was.
No
Yeah.
longer. Well, tell us a little bit about that organization, what it aims to accomplish. And when did you leave?
Well, the IMRRC museum is at Watkins Glen, and it's really uh, an unbelievable repository of the history of motor racing and all types of motor racing, whether it's Formula One, USAC, kart, NASCAR, SCCA, Trans Am, Can-Am, you name it. And it's an unbelievable museum repository, as I say, of history that has been steered by a lot of very passionate people from within the sport who've had the resource to help the museum or have been asked to come in and guide it to its future, and which it has been successful in doing. And I mean, it's amazing just how if you want a photograph of a car in 1958 that ran at Riverside, California, boom, it's there. I mean, it's got the records of the SCCA, other collections of photographs and what have you from other major series. So it's really the people who really probably profit by it the most are those who write books or articles about the history of the sport in one way or the other. And so when I was asked to be on it initially as just a board member, I immediately said yes, because I just think I really believe the history of a sport, I don't care what sport it is, the history of a sport is what legitimizes it today.
Yeah.
And so I was very quick to say I'm in. And then a couple of years later, they asked me to be the chairman, which was very nice of them, and I was. And then I was there for about, in total, probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And then really kind of wanted to do something else. So I resigned, and but I still support the museum every year. So yeah, they do great stuff.
You also have some amazing cars in your personal car collection. How do you decide on the cars you want to own and how you go about getting them and maybe how you enjoy them?
Well, yeah, if you were looking, I've had lots of cars, race cars, old race cars. Really, most of the stuff from that era that I spoke of earlier, the sports car era, in the late 60s, say 1966 through 73, maybe something like that. So I've had, I had a Porsche 917 at one time. I had two Porsche 908s. I had a 906, a 904. Most of these cars were cars that I saw race in the day. They were new in the day when I saw them, and always thought, it's like any guy who, or maybe any person who collects cars. They're always they love those cars, and they couldn't afford them when they were new. So later on in life, when they can't afford them, what do? They go out and buy that Cobra or that Stingray Corvette or
Right.
whatever it may be, right? And I had a GT40 that had a racing background at one time, and I would race them, and then it's like, okay, on to the next one. That was kind of silly because I had some pretty amazing cars. Um, but it usually, the cars I collect usually has something to do with my youth. And when I say that, for example, I have a 67 Porsche 911S. I have a 67 Toyota 2000 GT, a 72 2002 Tii BMW that is exactly like the one I had in college. Um, you're kind of reliving your youth, 50, 60 years later. So those are the cars I'm attracted to. And I've had other stuff. I've had numerous, but mostly it comes from that era. I would say from 60, 65, say to 73.
I'll ask this question as a car dealer as well as a car aficionado. What's Bobby Rahal's view on electric vehicles?
Well, you probably, yeah, remember I'm 71 too. So
Sure.
I am not a fan of electric cars because I think there's better alternatives. I think hybrids, whether it's plug-in or what have you, are better. I'm a Toyota dealer, Lexus dealer. So proud of Mr. Toyota for actively coming out and setting the record straight. There's some amazing articles that have come out about, electric cars are nothing more than the government trying to determine what John Doe should be driving every day, to the exclusion of everything else. And I don't think it can be achieved that what they're trying to achieve can't be achieved that way for a number of reasons. And, now if you really want to get serious about it, it's hydrogen hybrids, because there's zero impact on the environment, unlike electrics, with batteries and everything else that's needed. And as I say to people, remember, batteries don't create energy. They only store it and then release it. So you got to have, power plants able to support the infrastructure, that's not environmentally clean. And, so you got to look a little bit deeper than what has been portrayed. But, I do believe that, there has to be, there has to be variation in how you achieve the goal. And for me, hybrids right now, whether it's plugins or hydrogen or whatever, ultimately, I think they're the solution.
Well, and Jack Hollis has been on this program, head of Toyota in North America, talking about the carbon footprint.
Yeah.
From, I mean, it's all of it is kind of a pendulum that has now firmly swung the other way, isn't it, Bobby?
Yeah, I hope. I hope. I
Yeah.
mean, um, I just read that the government just relaxed regulations on on the battery um, uh, qualities or what have you in order to make it easier to produce them. And now you're and so I don't know what that relaxation has meant other than so now it's a worse battery than what you'd proposed before because
Right.
you proposed the best initially, wouldn't you?
Right.
No, I don't know. I really think uh, I really think the government needs to get out of the automobile business and let the automobile people determine what's the best foot forward.
You're in the automobile business. How many rooftops do you have now?
We have 13 rooftops, 17 franchises, all in the state of Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's been a good business being a car dealer these last few years, hasn't it?
Well, I in college I worked at a BMW Mercedes dealership in Westmont, Illinois, in the back end. Um, Probably always thought that had I not raced, I would have been an automobile salesman. Um, Luckily I was successful, but you also know you're not going to race forever. And what are you going to do the second half of your life? And thankfully I was given an opportunity by Honda to become a Honda dealer, which opened in January of '89. It's hard to believe that we're now, what is that, 35 years in the business.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and we represent great brands aside from Honda. And it's just been fantastic industry, but kind of in line with that passion that I've had about automotive, all things automotive. And I've really been fortunate to have great people with me on that ride, so to speak. And so yeah, it's a business that I think provides provides people with the freedom to do what they want to do, go where they want to go, when they want to go. Automobile dealers support local charities to tremendous levels, whether it's the local church or the Little League baseball team or whatever it might be. So it's very much on the ground floor of America, I think, and that makes it particularly satisfying.
True entrepreneurial spirit for sure. So you're in auto. So let's go back. You thought you could be an auto salesman. So how do you sell IndyCar these days? What does IndyCar as a league need? And I saw that you've talked recently about a TV deal, a third engine manufacturer. What does IndyCar need? What's the state of the business?
Well, I think the state of the business is, I mean, there's no better racing in the world. I don't care where you are, and I don't care what it is. IndyCar racing is so unbelievably competitive and intense. There's nothing like it. And to me, that's the core, right? Because that's what attracts people is that level of competition. And clearly we have great races on our schedule. Places like Road America, Long Beach, of course, Indy, obviously, Laguna Seca, the crown jewels of road racing circuits in this country, plus tremendous ovals. We're going back to Milwaukee this year. Yeah, probably my favorite ovals were the 1 mile ovals like Milwaukee and Phoenix and New Hampshire and others. The product is, I think, without question. Yes, I think we need better TV, and hopefully we're going to get that here very shortly. We need a charter system for the teams, so the teams that can actually create value. Right now, the value is limited to the value of the trucks and trailers and what have you. But there's nothing that you look at NASCAR. If you want to race NASCAR and you want access to all the benefits of the NASCAR system, you have to buy an existing team out. No different than if you want to get into baseball or football, you've got to buy out one of the existing teams. And that's what creates value. We have never had that in IndyCar, really, and it's time we have that. So to me, those are the two big things: are the television package and associated to that, the streaming and all the other, the online activities, and then of course a system to create value for the teams because they put a lot of value in every year. And there needs to be a way to be rewarded for that, other than a trophy.
You must sit back and look at what's happened in this country with Formula One as a former Formula One driver and just shake your head with amazement.
It's crazy, right? I mean, I was at Miami last year. I've been to Austin. I didn't go to Vegas, but you want to talk about crazy? That really looked crazy. I mean, let's face it. Liberty, um, the money that's been created in Formula One internationally allows those kinds of events to happen, and you know, I think it's great because I think it helps all racing, frankly.
Yeah.
But yeah, uh, it's just like Formula One. You're dealing with with countries as the promoters, not with private companies, and so the level of investment that can be made is huge compared to say IndyCar
Bahrain.
or anything else for that matter. So
Right.
yeah, but I think it's good. Other than they need the Andretti's to be in there because they need to have a true American team and a true, why wouldn't you have Mario Andretti, who did so much for Formula One, and Formula One did much for him as well. But why wouldn't you, open your arms and accept that is totally beyond me. But I know I've been to Formula One, and Formula One's like a club. It's not it's not an open series. It's all about, the club. And, unless you've been over there for many years, you're not part of that club.
Hmm. Well said. What does it take to win this year, Bobby? What's gonna happen?
It takes it all. And that sounds, trite, I suppose, but I was just in a meeting with one of my teams talking about race strategy and pit stops and what have you. And you have everything has to be done perfectly well, or certainly better than anybody else can do on that given day in order to win. And that's hard. That's hard to do, which is why only certain people win all the time. It's not an easy sport business to be successful in because there's so many factors at play. You can spend all kinds of money in R&D to gain an advantage, and a bad pit stop can negate that advantage. And it's almost like you just wasted all that money on the R&D side because you couldn't execute on the other side. So, I mean, the pressure, the expectation, as I said earlier, is so much greater today because of the tightness of the competition. And yeah, I mean, just everything's got to go your way. Yes, there's a little bit of luck involved, for sure, but you just gotta do your job that day. It's that simple, and that's everybody in the team.
Well, wouldn't it be perfect on his 20th anniversary with you and Dave? And I'll close here with a Dave quote about you and why he stayed with you now, almost 30 years. He
Yeah.
said, I was attracted to this sport and this team because of the people. You're fascinated by the cars and the technology and the ability and the strategy, but mostly I was attracted to Bobby himself. Here's the closing part of the quote, Bobby. To me, he was a different sort than what I grew up with. The AJ Foyt model. If I don't qualify my race car, let me see if I can qualify the rental that I have from the airport.
That sounds like Dave.
That's Dave.
Yeah, it's Dave.
We wish you all the best of luck. Thank you for being on the program. It's great to catch up with you again. It's been way too long, and I wish you all the best of Indy.
Thank you. And good chatting with you.
Great. Thank you. How did you know, or when did you know that switch had flipped, that it had gone from a buddy of mine doing a couple of cars to, maybe that other business I've got going is not really, maybe I don't have to do that anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the business that I had started and built, it was thrilling to put together a group of people to get on a mission. I really loved doing that. That's great, but I didn't care about what we were doing. It was the mission was to start a business and make money, and but it wasn't because I was quite passionate about it. So it was always fascinating to go see how Singer was doing with Rob, and it was turning into a little bit of a thing. It was probably 2016 when we started really. So the DLS thing was just a very lightweight version of what Singer was doing at the time. But the idea that we started to socialize it then and really start working on it, and it was the idea that we would do at the time $1 million car was like, where do I sign? And for me, I knew that there was something here that was beyond the sum of its parts. They're not just looking for a hot rodded car that has higher performance. It was important that it was from us and that it looked and felt like a thing that Rob designed, and then would perform. I was so taken aback by that. And then I would say I want to say 20, if I remember correctly, 2017, when we first offered people to sign up for DLS, how many people signed contracts and sent deposits instantaneously. And by that point, the car was $1.8 million. And that for me really solidified, like, there's really something here, that this is unexpected. And this is a brand, the beginnings of a brand, not just, we're hot rodding a car for someone. They've asked us to hot rod a car. We're a hot rodding car. We're not just a services outfit. There's something here that can be repeated.
Yeah.
And that's when that was it for me.
It was the scalability, right? I mean, that was the part where the switch went for you as well.
Well, yeah, but the idea that we were looked at as a our name was important. It wasn't just the object. I have hot rodded, I've had this outfit hot rod my 911. That wasn't it. It was that you're getting something from Singer, and Singer is taken seriously. And of course, then we launched a partnership with Williams Formula One, and I think our credibility with that car and all of the partnerships we struck to develop that car went even further. So that was it, and that's actually when I started full time. I went and did the DLS car full time. That was the big, rewrite in my life, right? So I'm gonna go do cars full time, like I've wanted to since I was
you're born
one or something, right? Yeah. No, way before that. Yeah, that was cool, but it was still a little hard to forecast at the time. Like, all right, we're gonna go do 75 cars. It had a beginning and an end. We're gonna start this project. We think we can sell 75 of them, and there's your, that's our history. We were definitely not thinking past that. We didn't know we'd be here.
Is it a little bit of perfect timing in a sense that you mentioned earlier, no marketing efforts at all, but all of a sudden you get into TikTok, Instagram stories, social media becomes so much more prevalent in the past decade, maybe even longer, and the sharing that could exist. Because when I talk to teenagers after I talked to Rob Dickinson, I mean, they said, my God, you talked to Rob at Singer? And this is not because they read it in a magazine. It's because
I think when Rob in 2000, it was 2000, either end of 2009 or early 2010, and he had kind of mocked up a first car is orange, and some pictures were taken from that, and I think the timing there was perfect. It was sort of the advent of social media, and it went viral as much as an old car would, and that's actually how I saw it. I think that was quite perfect timing. And in our case, I think it's a ubiquitous, vehicle for information to get out now, right? It is sort of the method. And of course, if you look at our, the sort of following from us from a social media perspective, it's not a bunch of our customers; it's a bunch of kids. We had a bunch of kids looking at old 911s. I mean, our cars are very special, but I think if you're not necessarily into them, it just looks like an old 911, right? So yeah, pretty cool that we have teenagers showing up taking selfies at our factory, in front of cars. You think it was a Lamborghini factory or something like that.
Yeah, you have 1.1 million followers on Instagram alone, on the official account. I mean, who needs marketing?
Yeah, and we're going to start. I think we found some gaps in some storytelling and other things. Some people don't really know what's under the skin, in terms of the cars and the people, and we just haven't had time to really fit and do that. So we're gonna, it also sort of leaves out a lot of the work. So we have a lot of employees and so on who do so much fabulous stuff that doesn't really get a lot of exposure. So we're going to do a better job of that going forward. And of course, as we grow into markets, it's it helps the storytelling, right? To do some of that.
So when we look, and you mentioned your partnership with Williams Formula One, and I went to Le Mans last year, and I saw folks walking around with Singer jackets on at Le Mans. I mean, you have really kind of spread all over the globe from that perspective, from the partnership perspective. How important are those now?
Yeah, look, it's
Tom Brady was, right?
Yeah, it'll be there next week. It is critical that when we approach something new, it's the best thing we could possibly execute with what we know at the time. So the idea that we would go into the world of Formula One to really pursue, the material science, the way they approach some of these things, their ability to forecast what happens to materials under pressure. I don't know how common that is. Maybe in aerospace, rocketry or something, but certainly in the automotive world, they really, really push the limits of designing and really understanding these things. And we knew that we had to really stress a few things to get performance out of the engine, and also get connected to the right suppliers. So it's been a theme since. So they did a lot of engineering for us. That they're not a supplier or anything along those lines, but that if we're going to approach something, whatever that is, that we couldn't have. There isn't a better option at the time. So it has been very important in terms of suppliers doing business with folks who are generally used to working on really high volumes. So people like Bosch and Brembo and Michelin, to get them to commit the way they've committed to our work is very fascinating. So it means we have to be a good customer to people who are used to dealing with much larger organizations. It's taught us a lot of lessons, but it's also changed the quality of what we do. I mean, now all of our new, everything we do that now and what's coming has modern ABS, traction control, stability control, just like a new car. Thanks to our work with Bosch and Mala. So I think continuing to sort of punch above our weight there is going to be part of the brand, ongoing.
Yeah, wonderful. A couple of other things. You have a full internship program that includes a rotation throughout departments. Yep. This year's class has just begun with 35 interns. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's the product of one of our fabulous team members, a guy named Michael Henderson, who really designed that here. And it's not hard to find people very, very passionate about cars and about Singer, and to be able to bring generally very young sort of upstarts into here to be it's not just it's not just so that they can get a taste of it. They actually tend to be part of the team in one way or another, and there's a lot of flexibility for them. So if they'd like to be in paint or in engineering or on the sales side, they have a lot of optionality. It's really cool, and to see the look on their faces when they're here, right? I mean, it's quite a thrill. And in some cases, we've ended up hiring out of those groups. That's ultimately the idea. Sometimes they're just very young, right? And they're not ready for it could be the beginning of university for them. But we stay close to them. So yeah, it's great. And I have to tell you, if I had that chance at that age to come and work at a place like this, not to compliment ourselves, but I mean, if you go out on our shop floor, it's super cool, right? A lot of hand built cars out there, very colorful, terrific things.
And tell me about the Singer University.
So a lot of the work here has become increasingly scientific. So we've taken our quality standards and we have made them programmatic, meaning When it comes to things like general assembly, piecing the cars back together, we've really standardized how that works. And there's build stages and work instructions and torque values and all that. It's not just a hot rod shop. But there are areas where craftsmanship is required. So obviously upholstery and paint, a few other areas where you need experience, you need skill, you need feel, you need time, and even the folks in upholstery, leather has different thicknesses and stretches differently and does all this stuff. But the finished product has to be the same. So it's a training program basically for every area of the business, so that we can help accelerate those learnings and do it in a work environment. It's not like they just sit in a classroom or anything, right? But we find people who are just love to be a part of that area of the business, so we help ramp them up into it.
Yeah, amazing. A lot of people wouldn't know you are a global luxury brand. It's not just cars. Tell me a little bit about the watch company. What's the update on that?
So the watch company was the endeavor was led by the product as a singer, meaning like we want to do something really, really magnificent, which happens to be unusual, and let's just do it and see what happens. Right? That was really very similar to how the car side got started. And Rob got hooked up with this terrific guy named Marco. He was the head designer at Panerai watches, and they went and designed a watch around a very unique movement a few years back, and let's go make it. So there it was, and then there was this product sort of landed on the world, and that's what started the watch business. It's small, and it's meant to stay small, and it's very very low volume, very high value. And it's a bit of a kind of a toe in the water for us to see, if we can apply the same philosophy that we do on the car side with anything else. Watches, they're analog, right? They're like an analog car, have a lot of the same principles, applied there. So it's a lot of fun. It's not, the mission isn't to, take over the world with it. It's to continue doing these fabulous things in low volume.
Yeah, but there was a mission once about cars that had the same idea when it started.
Yeah, we're gonna do 5. That was funny.
Right?
Well, it's funny about that time. We approached Cosworth to do engines back then. That was for the first 964, and we knew we had 3 interested customers, but we told them we had 5, and that was the exaggeration. Was we might be able to do 5 of these, eventually, right? We needed to be taken seriously, and now it's like, we need 400, right? It's a different conversation when you're talking about hand building 400 engines. That doesn't really happen.
No,
outside of motorsport. No, outside of
right.
NASCAR things, right? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
not in those volumes.
If I place my order today, when could I get my car?
Yikes!
This is what Rob said a couple years ago.
Well, since we're friends, maybe we can do. I'm just kidding. It's 2027. About
no
right
way
for a turbo. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, turbo. I think is a little bit later. Yeah. We got a lot of cars to build.
A lot of cars to build. Yeah. Well,
yeah, we're doing now about 12 a month, and that will go up to about 16. I think by the end of the year.
Okay. Can you ramp up any faster than that in your 10-year plan?
No, the idea isn't to, this isn't we're not chasing volume and any of that. It's really about, like I said, low volume, high value. It's really focusing on on exquisite execution, right? So that has a natural rate limiter. You will not go faster than, you know, the the hand built stuff, the body, the paint, the upholstery, it will not go faster than it goes. And that's fine. That's what our clients get, right? They get this huge amount of focus on the thing that they help design.
Yeah.
And we go execute. So no, we don't really intend to, not unless, we come up with a new idea or something, but
Right.
yeah.
You're doing a new, or you're launching the turbo study. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we launched the turbo study. We have a bunch of them. So we have Goodwood coming up, Goodwood Festival of Speed, which is I think is our 9th year.
Wow.
There. And then I can't even tell you how many Monterey years. So Monterey soon thereafter. So it will be a bunch of turbo. A lot of turbocharged stuff there, which has been a new flavor for us.
Yeah, that's great. We talked to Rob originally about that. Is success sometimes also invites criticism? Do you find that as you have more customers now, or maybe the wait time is what it is, as you just said, do you start getting things like, oh, come on, how can this take so long? Or, oh, I didn't like that. Or that. I mean, right? When it's just two guys building a car, nobody really has an opportunity to say much.
Well, it's funny because we like I said earlier, we sold more than we could possibly have forecasted, which is good news. The bad news is operationally we were unprepared. So we didn't know what it would take to be able to deliver those. So we were very, very late for a long time with a bunch of cars. And that was because we weren't prepared for the amount of sales, and the level of preparation was something that we didn't quite understand. So, manufacturing effectively and efficiently, I think, no matter what you're manufacturing, is difficult. When you have many, many suppliers, there's always going to be a problem. If you're relying on 150 external businesses, it could be they deliver the wrong thing. It could be they have a fire in their building. It could be whatever it is. There's always going to be something, right? So now we understand that. We're prepared for that. But at the time we weren't. And so it took forever to get a car done from us before, but that's because we were terrible at building cars. Now we know exactly what we're doing. It's just a very long line. So I kind of equate it to, I don't know if you've ever been to it's light years ago for me, but go to like a bar or something that has a line outside, and you go inside, there's no one there, right? There's just they're just trying to make it look like they're busy. In our case, it took a long time, and that's because we were not good at it. And but of course, as we got better at it, the orders picked up.
Yeah.
So as we became more reliable and more predictable and all that stuff, people had a lot more confidence. So it's now aligned because there's a lot of people in front of you, right? And a lot of cars on the floor.
A lot of cars in the bar now.
Yeah, a few hundred cars in process at any given time. Yeah.
Wow. When we have this conversation, Maz, final thing here, in 2034, what are we going to be talking about?
I can't tell you. Yeah, I kind of knew you were going to ask that. It's like I said, we're now looking down the road. We've built something to some degree by accident, and the phase of the business we're in now is to build a foundation for a long time. It's not just to fulfill our orders. It's definitely to take that's not just the goodwill that we have, but the brand that we've built, and really, solidify it and harness it for a much longer vision. And so right now we're in the solidifying period, but then the execution of that will come. I'm sure we'll have another call.
Yeah,
at some point to discuss. Yeah.
You're a long way from the dealership in Dearborn and dropping off that mint green 92 911. Oh, how the road has been an interesting one, Maz. We look forward to seeing where it bends and dips and winds going forward.
Yeah. It'll be interesting for sure. Thank you for the time.
No, thank you. Thanks for being on the program. Thanks for telling your story. And we'll see you at Pebble Beach.
Yeah. See you soon. Thanks, Jason.
Great. Thank you.